Yeah, so, well, welcome. We're in the K2K Radio, formerly Kilburn to Kensal Radio studio here in the heart of Kilburn at Metroland Studios. Welcome. We started 11 years ago as a legacy project for South Kilburn Studios. So not a dissimilar project that Metroland is. It's a place for artists, creatives, and the space that was destined to be knocked down, as you know, like this one. So I was running South Kilburn Studios, and one day Max Grafe walked in and said, "I'd love a studio." I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I set up radio stations." I said, "I'd love a radio station." So we got him a space and we built Kilburn to Kensal Radio. And at that time, I was running a lot of projects in the area. So the studios, Kilburn Festival, community events in Queen's Park, different projects and spaces. And it was always a challenge of how to market it, how to get volunteers, how to get people to come to events and to kind of find community and connection. So, and ways to kind of connect and grow. So it was set up as a community engagement platform, a way for people to come and build their skills or have a mental health break or find community or have a place to go to express their creativity or to support their careers, support their path, either personal or professional development. So yeah, and still we're running 11 years later. So we started at the Albert, which was near Queen's Park Station, now blocks of flats. And then we moved to South Kilburn Studios, we moved to the Granville, and then earlier this year, so in May 2023, we moved into Metroland. And we're kind of going through a metamorphosis. You know, we've always allowed anyone to have airtime, given them free training, access to really affordable space. At the moment, you know, there's people who barter for airtime, or there's people who pay £7.50 for an hour, which is pretty accessible and affordable. And we're looking at how we can then, as well as being a broadcasting platform, give people a space to record podcasts and to amplify voices, to take people's voices to the next level, you know, depending on where they are and what they want to achieve. And we've had so many people come through the doors. And it really started as a family, you know, as a real people who have still connected now, who, you know each other's kids, who still go, some people go and share Christmas dinner. You know, it's like this really was what we intended it to be, a safe place, a sense of belonging, a place where people found connection, found family, were able to express themselves creatively or just be somewhere, you know, combating loneliness or combating mental health challenges. And yeah, that's still at the heart of what we want to do, who we are, you know, that kind of community with creativity and care. So we have, yeah, live shows, recorded shows, we're on air 24/7 online. We're looking at possibilities around becoming FM, but that's quite a big commitment. And it's all run by volunteers at the moment. And it was meant to be a resource that anyone could plug into and run with. You know, that it was a platform to, if someone came and said, well, I want to go out and get sponsors, or, you know, go and get sponsors, or I have this project, well, great, use the studio. It was meant to be this community-owned asset, and we're chipping away at that. But yeah, tune in, k2kradio.com.
This is an unknown gas appliance. It's a found object. It's not a ritual object. It has a utilitarian engineering purpose, now long lost. when we moved in to this house about 30 years ago, it was one of the things we found in the cellar, and I thought it was interesting because it could look ritual, it could look religious, it could look heraldic. So I picked it up and considered respraying it, and decided not to. Put it on a kind of mantelpiece arrangement with an orcish ring, the Lord of the Rings type that my son was very proud of. I like it because it says something about the past and a particular period of the past, which was the switch over from gas to electricity. Not complete, there's still lots of gas being used, though it will eventually be phased out. It spoke to me of that period when people used gas appliances, there were gas fires. And it had the connection that my family had never liked gas, or never been allowed to like gas, because my father had been an engineering officer on an aircraft carrier during the war. And he was terrified of gas, because if you're in a ship carrying millions of litres of aviation fuel, what you are particularly afraid of is leakage of fuel vapour and fire. And indeed, it looked like the sister ship to his ship had been destroyed without enemy action in the middle of the Atlantic. It just blew up. And my father had made some modifications on his ship so that didn't happen. Probably, but it was all hushed up because the Admiralty didn't even want to admit that the first one had blown up, let alone the reasons for it. So my father's anxiety about gas and his sheer distaste for it, not just the smell, but the danger of it, was an issue in what we could do to heat our house. So when I found this in the cellar, it was a sort of prehistoric era artefact. It was from a period before full electrification, which, growing up in my case in the 50s and 60s, was modernity. The gas heating was Victorian, or at least pre-Second World War, and I wanted nothing to do with it. Plus, it's hard to install. It's a whole different set of connections that you need to have. So, gas for me was the past, and then finding this in the past was like recovering and then recuperating a Neolithic object. It had, and it has that same uncompromising shape and style. You could see, if it were bigger, a few feet bigger, you can see entire ceremonies being enacted, possibly with bronze axes in front of it. And I thought it was too interesting to be lost or allowed to remain in the near permanent darkness of the cellar. So I have brought it up from the collective historical unconscious, and it's preserved on my desk, or my wife's desk. We argue about it. She doesn't like it as much as I do, but we have a drawer on this, and so we keep it there. And so there it is. I don't know what it was called. I note it has perforations at the top, which may be significant. Maybe flames spurted out of there. Maybe not. It could be exhibited in that direction and format. But I think it seems to me, because of its upthrusting, semi-liturgical aspects, it's better kept like this. So it will remain for at least the next few years of Kilburn's life. This object will be proudly displayed again to the public view, to the select visitors, and filmic representations. So enjoy, everyone.
My name is Lynda, and I've been living in this end of Kilburn for 25 years, and in the other end of Kilburn for 20 years before that. So I guess I'm nearly a Kilburn person. About 15 years ago, I've discovered Kilburn Older Voices Exchange, KOVE, and that was something I stumbled on by accident, and I've become very involved with them. So Kilburn Older Voices Exchange has been going for about 23 years. One of the very first issues was that older people going out need to sit down. So there was a campaign to find out where the benches were, and Camden gave us a map, which was completely out of date, and we located broken benches and missing benches and dangerous benches. And it's been a campaign ever onwards from the founder of KOVE to get new benches. So there is always money available. That doesn't seem to be the problem. The problem is people don't want a bench in their backyard. So I don't want people sitting outside my property. But we sort of insist, and we get these benches in places like Schulte Hill, which is a bit of a drag upwards for people. And the latest success was 4 years holding the money from Brent, who at last gave in and let us put the benches where we wanted them. Or, you know, we'd suggested loads of places. You can imagine the research that goes into this. And my other bench story is the fact that a gentleman who used to walk through this estate often chatted with me and said, I think you should have a bench on Webb Heath. And we don't have a bench anywhere. And he said, well, look, I'm going to die very soon. And he put the £500 in an envelope, came past me one day and said, get a bench, Lynda. And I was lucky I was able to get a bench for that price. The interesting story was it was the wrong fixing for the bench. So Amberol, I'll give them a plug, were very kind and said, right, we'll give you the right bench, and now you've got two. And now, straight away, people came to me and said, can we go in there and do such and such? I said, it's for everybody. And very recently, a lady came up to me and said, Lynda, you put the benches there, you've attracted the druggies in there, it's your fault, Lynda. We, you know, lock the garden up. It's a little community garden that was just a derelict space. And that's a whole nother story of how SIL money went into reinventing this space, which was a very steep hill which grounds maintenance couldn't manage. They wouldn't attempt it, so we got it infilled. I mean, it was £6,000 worth of money, and it's still on a slope, and I can go on and on. The benches on the High Street and around West Hampstead, it's an ongoing campaign to get one outside, like I think it's the TSB is now something else. Can't remember the name of the bank. But one of our KOVE people got a little plaque put on it, so you can dedicate your bench if you want to. And the two on the Brent side, it took us 4 years to get those installed. And we're very, very pleased, though they look a funny design. we didn't have a say in that. We just got one replaced in Waitrose that fell apart. It was a new bench that fell apart. Anyway, there's people living in the West Hampstead area who just will not leave that alone. They get results. A little Sainsbury's, there's a hostel opposite, and the gentleman who would always look out of his window at Kilburn High Road crosses over now, sits on the bench and sees the world from the other side of the road, which is rather sweet. We're very pleased that he likes the bench. And the Sainsbury's staff have their breaks on it. Yeah. I mean, we have quite a few places that we're looking for that sort of improvement. So one day Kilburn High Road will be just absolutely welcoming.
Yeah.
Well, I do love to show people around the estate. There are people living here in one of the 11 blocks that don't know where the other 9 or 10 blocks are. It's incredible. I mean, when I came here, I explored. I found out sheltered housing is up there, and I'm trying to get them to come to everything. How can you live in a place and not care? You know, that people are very nice to their 3 or 4 neighbours that they know, and they don't want to know the other 225 people. That's my conclusion. And whenever I ask for help, I get help, but nobody ever knocks on the door and says, hey, what are we going to do tomorrow, Lynda? They'll help me because I'm asked, and they see me up a ladder. Don't go up the ladder, Lynda. I say, well, hold the ladder for me. They help me, but they do not want to get involved. They do not want to do it every Saturday. You know, I'm all, let's do it. No.
And
So-
how long have you been here?
25 years. But I only started getting this involvement about 7 years ago, and the story of that is I have quite a thick hedge here. I'm pleased with the way, when I came it was very, very overgrown, but I left the big hedge and I'm cutting away at it, and a gentleman comes past me and says, "Can you do the end bit where Camden won't touch it, the grounds maintenance bit?" And I said, "That's a bit of a huge job." And it just went from there. Somehow I got convinced that nothing would happen without a tenants residents association, and I've now found out, this is a good story, if I wanted a tenants residents association for my block, I could have had one, but I didn't know that, so I am responsible for 11 blocks. And if one person in every block took it on, look how easy it would be.
Fantastic.
So there, you've come to a storyteller.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynda.
We'll brew the coffee and we'll do this and then I'll make the coffee. Okay. Hi there, I'm Anthony Molloy. I'm currently a councillor for Kilburn. And I'm Kilburn aristocracy. And my mum was born on the kitchen table at 47 Dine Road in 1920. And that was about 10 years after her dad had bought the property. So that's to say it was about right at the beginning of Kilburn, really. Kilburn kind of grew up in the late 1890s. So my granddad bought that property in about 1910. You know, he actually bought it for about 100 guineas, which is 105 quid. You know, now it's worth about 2 million. You know, but that's another story now. So my family is Kilburn through and through. And especially kind of my mum, really. You know? So my mum, she had a very fond memory of the opening of the Gaumont State in Kilburn, the cinema, which was, I think it was in 1938 or 1939. And there is actually a nice little video that you can look at on YouTube, which was filmed the evening of the grand opening, and it was pretty grand actually. And charmingly, the little video is called An Acre of Seats in a Garden of Dreams. Isn't that a lovely name for a little film? And that's what it was. And originally they had, I don't know, like 1,000 seats or something. And they put an extra one in so that it would be an acre of seats. You know, because it wasn't quite, 1,000 wasn't quite an acre of seats. So there was like one little seat added on the end of one of the rows to make it an acre of seats in a garden of dreams.
Yeah.
You said sugar?
Yes, please.
Francesca, yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so, and then moving down the generations, my sister was born at number 43 Dine Road, because my parents were living there, you know, two doors down from her parents, you know. And I remember my sister's 21st birthday party a while ago now, and they invited the milkman, because he was her first memory, because my mum used to put her out in the pram in the front garden, and so every day the milkman would come by. Charlie, his name was, and that was her first memory. But he had to retire from the milk round because he couldn't understand the decimal currency when they changed, you know, so he took early retirement. When I was born, my parents weren't living in Kilburn, so strictly speaking I wasn't born in, I was actually born in Barts Hospital, but and they were living up north because my dad worked for the civil service and he was always being moved around. But I came back to Kilburn when I was 6 years old with a strong Lancashire accent, there used to be this radio show called The Clitheroe Kid, and that was a kid with a strong Lancashire accent. And so when I came to London, they all called me the Clitheroe Kid at school, so I had to lose that pretty damn quick, you know. So school, I went to Mallory's, which is a school up in Bronsbury Park, and then later I went to Marleman Grammar School, which was on the Euston Road. It's not there anymore, and it's long gone. And yeah, so going down the generations again, and my mum was at the opening of the Gaumont State, and me and my mates, our main appointment of the week was for Saturday morning pictures at the Gaumont State. I don't know how many people remember Saturday morning pictures, but it was quite a thing when I was young. And yeah, I used to get naff old cowboy movies, and you had to boo the Indians and cheer the cowboys or whatever. But it was good fun, and it went on for hours, you know. And then we'd all go swimming in Granville Road Baths, which was a desperate old, a really old-fashioned, worthless swimming pool, but we had fun. I mean, there was like 500 kids in there, making a racket.
And you haven't.
But it was incredibly noisy. Imagine 500 kids shrieking their guts out. There used to be a guy that went down there every Saturday morning and played it. I mean, I think it's like the best organ in the country. You know. And when the church moved in, they ripped the organ out and basically threw it away, or what they could. But then it turns out that that's a listed thing. I don't know how that works. So they had to put it back, you know. So it's all down there. It still comes out of the ground. That was a bingo hall, you know.
Yeah.
The bit on Willesden Lane, the old restaurant. I think. I mean, like I say, I never saw it as a restaurant, but I mean, that bit of that had been the restaurant became a bingo hall, and so actually my grandma. So this is my mum's mum, you know. She was about 80, and she used to go to bingo like 2 or 3 times a week. It was her main thing. And she won a car once. I mean, she'd never driven anything. And
What happened to the car?
I think they gave you a cash alternative, I think.
Oh, right.
And she liked the money, my mum's mum, my grandma, Millie. And yeah, there's a lot of stories about that, but I'm going to wash all the family's dirty.
Action.
Pause a minute.
Yeah.
So what changed between the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023 was the temporary accommodation bill. And this is a real can of worms. It's a very complicated story, but basically there's a perfect storm that means that people are getting evicted from basically the private rental sector. That is to do with the cost of living crisis, so that people fall into rent arrears. It's to do with landlords leaving the housing market because the regulations are tightening up. And there's a number of other less important elements. But the result is that the number of, because when a family is made homeless, the council is obliged to rehouse them, you know. And a lot of these families are big families, you know. They have 3 or 4 or 5 kids, you know. And we do not have any housing for that kind of family. So we have to put them in bed and breakfast, you know. And basically between the first quarter and the second quarter of this year, the bill rose, it like doubled, and that is what's killing Brent Council. All these council bankruptcies, they're all different, each one has a different story. So Birmingham, it was an equal pay thing. Brent doesn't have that, and the financial management of Brent has been very, very prudent. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd have said they were too prudent, and I'd have been dead wrong, because we're on the way to bankruptcy now. And if I'd been in charge, it would have happened years ago. Yeah, social housing is the main priority, and Brent Council is doing a pretty good job in very, very, very straitened circumstances of providing what Londoners, especially young Londoners, need the most: affordable accommodation. That was a bit political, wasn't it?
No.
So, me and my family have a long history in Kilburn, and I must admit now it's a great honour to be the local councillor. My mum was very active in Labour Party politics, and I kind of took on that mantle from her, and they were bugging me for a long time to become a councillor, but I didn't think I'd be very good at it, and I avoided it for a long time. But when I retired from my paid work, I decided to have a go, and it's an honour to represent the people of Kilburn, and I think I'm doing it all right actually. There's a lot of people who disagree, especially this week when we passed a planning permission for the Kilburn Square estate, but it's an honour to be a councillor for Kilburn, especially in a borough that is constructing so much social housing that we need so badly, and I'll leave it at that.
He knows a lot in his head. Very clever man. See his face?
But unfortunately nowadays Kilburn is not the same Kilburn that I used to know. The Kilburn I used to know, the Irish generation was here. The Kilburn market was buzzing with customers, yeah. And but nowadays, to be honest with you, we hardly see, those people, they gone back home or their home countries. Some other people, they replace their, but it's not the same, to be honest. My name is Muhibullah, my surname is Muhib. Originally I'm from Afghanistan and I've been living in UK for the past 42 years. The rules of the market is they are giving the license for each particular unit, and they give you the option what you can sell, what you can't sell. So because it's a small market, two people cannot sell the same thing. But unfortunately lately I used to sell perfume like these ones, Arabic perfume, English perfume, yeah. This one is Arabic perfume, this is a spray. These ones are Arabic traditional incense stuff that nobody used to sell. But now unfortunately that thing, some people obey the rules and regulations, some people they don't. But for me to top up my stock, I have to, one day, one item stays here for like 6 months. Another day, one customer comes and buy the whole lot, so I have to top it up, And for example, nowadays these perfume, this is oil perfume, they are extremely popular among the different people. And the prices are very reasonable. So they are not very expensive. It's like oily, they're a jasmine, lovely, fruity one, different ones. So each one is taken the one which they like. For example, this one is a rose one, this one is a red rose one, this one is a jasmine one, this one they call it full, like in English we call it honeysuckle. And these ones are very soft one. And these ones are English one. The price is extremely changed especially after coronavirus. This particular perfume I used to sell 2 for £5. Now it's 1 for £6. And the other problem is, before the coronavirus, the wholesalers used to bring a container from China or India for 4,000 to 6,000 pounds. And now they are bringing it for 21 to 26,000 pounds for 3.5 months delivery. When it's arriving cargo, they say they have to pay the storage charge, waiting for the trucks to transport them to their warehouses. So that's why they increase the prices, but unfortunately for us, the prices I'm selling, our profit margin is going slimmer and slimmer. And but I have to help the community what they need, so it's extremely difficult. You know. I have to tell them what there are the scarves, there are wintry scarves, there are summery scarves, there are the abaya which the Arab people wear, there are perfumes. So what is your interest, so I can direct you to that section and just show you a few samples, you see. When the African people comes, I show them one type of perfume. When the English people comes or the European comes, I show them different type of perfume. The quality and the package and it's all the same, but after 5 years I know exactly who needs what and what they like. You know, for example, if I show you a perfume, you will not refuse not to buy it, you see. But this one, if my African customers comes, they don't like it. Yeah, this one is called Lovely, yeah. This one is a roll-on and lasts you more than 2 months. It's cost you like £2, yeah. Lovely. Lovely for lovely. When the Arab people comes, I have to show them these ones. Yeah, this one is oud. Yeah, Arab people likes this one. Young girls. Young girls, they like this one. Fruit and choco mask. This is a mask, this is a fruit. This has belonged to, you know, these ones are English one. Now, unfortunately, they increased the prices 5 times in 3 years. So now nobody is bringing it. This is only for my regular customers. Yeah, because I don't want to let them down. They've been my customers for a very long time. Yeah. I take very less profit, but I have to provide it to them. You know, this is what they need. To be honest with you, when the government let me down, and then I had a little bit of money saving. I decided, you know, that I have to do something myself. Then I was financially unable to get the shop in the main road, or I didn't have any idea what to sell, what not to sell, how can I get my stock from, you know, so I had absolutely zero idea about the shop and shopkeeping. Then I was passing by here and I told the gentleman, if I open a unit like this one, how much it will cost me. So he gave me a rough idea. So at the end I decided to buy his shop, which was this one. And there were a lot of stuff in here. And as I say again, I didn't have any clue about the shop, about the shopping. And some customers got really upset. Some customers thought I was really silly, you know, selling very expensive stuff for very cheap. And then unless you go and buy your own stuff, once you enter the shop and everything is there, you have no clue, you know, so just to study and educate yourself. For example, if I buy the item now, I know how much I can sell it. But if the shop is like this, you know, I wouldn't know the prices. So some people, they got upset because I gave them the high price. Some people, they thought I was, you know, very generous or silly or stupid that I sell such an expensive item for very cheap price. Then gradually till I managed to find my own way, you know. So this was the difficult part at the beginning. So ever since I've been here, and then yeah, sometimes it's very busy, sometimes not busy, sometimes we hardly make our rent. But we have to, the only benefit for me is I'm leaving in the morning from home and I'm going back I can communicate with people. There is not a gold mine here for me, but at least, keep me busy. Believe it or not, the baby was crying outside, yeah, and the mom wanted to breastfeed the baby. There was no place. I brought her to my shop, I put the chair, I left my shop, I went outside while she was breastfeeding a child, So it's not only for the prayers, I don't care about the nationality, I don't worry about their religion, just as a humanity, the child needs to be fed, the child needs to be fed. For example, if they are coming from outside London, they can't reach home, they have nowhere, they ask me, if they can pray in my shop, I say welcome. So they are coming most of the times, I never said no, This one customer is coming. Hello, Jane. How are you, darling? You want drink? Oh. Sorry if I repeated myself with my broken English. If I give you hard time, couldn't understand most of. If I didn't understand or didn't give you the right answer to your question, because in the back is, sometimes the ambulance is passing by, it's the noise from there is more than the.
This one is a little bit more special because first of all, George Formby was the local hero before my time. Yeah, he was the biggest maybe film star in the 30s, and still until these days, he influenced a lot of people, and this instrument was signed by on the hide here. Was signed by him. There's like a clover, some Irish kind of like thing, and it says, don't know if you can zoom in. Don't know if you can see it. Yeah, George Formby, 1938. Which is kind of like the peak of his career, from what I understand. And also he signed on this postcard as well, so he must have signed. So it's definitely not his instrument, because his instrument sold for quite a lot of money years ago, but you can definitely tell it's like a 1920s, it's called the H. Palmer Maestro. And I found it by chance in an auction that doesn't exist anymore. I went to have a look at some violins, and it was just the last item in the sale, and I didn't think too much of it because I thought it's either gonna draw a lot of attention or maybe no one will even notice it, and I just left an absent bid of the minimum of the estimate, and I kind of like didn't think much of it. And 2 days later I realized I was the only bidder, so I got to pay for it and take it. And of course it didn't really. What I had in mind is that it's a nice evidence because of the old times. And normally all instruments that come in, we tend to restore them and do them up and make them. And bring them to the best they can play, but here there's a few frets missing, and it's still got gut strings made of sheep gut, and I didn't think of replacing any of them, and I just thought, yeah, we'll keep it as original as possible. It still plays. These days no one is using sheep gut strings, since the developing of the much better alternatives made of plastic. You don't have to do this really messy job. And the way it kind of like connects to Kilburn is that in the government state in the cinema in the opening night, which was in 1938, actually George Formby was the person who was opening this magnificent. It was like the biggest. I think it was the biggest hall in Europe or in England at the time, and they chose George Formby to go on stage and play his ukulele or banjolele as an opening act, which was maybe it's not a choice of a band or an orchestra, just this funny guy getting on stage with one of these instruments. So I think that it has a nice, strong connection to the history of Kilburn, and that's why we like it, and it's part of our shop really. Yeah, kind of like for the common people, it's got like this military things and a lot of funny songs of like working class, window cleaners and all this, and how he gets in trouble but it really through him you can kind of like understand the history of this place, because of course I wasn't born around here and I'm in a completely different generation, but you can really pick up some of this the vibe or the atmosphere or the sense of humor that was popular at that time. And I think every person who gets introduced to him will always find him a classic, maybe like maybe not Charlie Chaplin, but in kind of like the same. It's good enough to last for many years and still be relevant to people who not related to it in any way. And of course it brings a lot of memories for other generations who grew up watching these films in, I guess, in the 60s or something, when there was a black and white TV. But for us it's really, that's the main connection, is the fact that it's that he played here in one of the most important events that happened on this high road ever, which was 80 years ago. I opened it with someone who's been here since the early 80s. His name was John Leslie, and he had the accordion shop here, which was also a big part of music. The accordion was an important instrument for music, especially around here. But basically, we opened it 16 years ago now. So it's been 16 years that the shop is alive and kicking, and this has been here for maybe 10, 12 years or 13 years. I don't really remember. I don't know, I might have the date. Yeah, I have the date. Yeah, we bought it in the 15th of December 2010. That's the card. That's the postcard, sorry. With the same signature, which also in his book, he had a signed photograph of his. Definitely there's a lot of history around here, and a positive one. It's definitely changing, and every few years you notice that it hasn't been